cloud. So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Art 186. It's computer graphics with Adobe Illustrator for the spring semester 2022. Today we're starting where we left off last Tuesday. I was having some issues in completing the assignment. I was getting lost in some of the details, and I've got it all straightened out, I hope. Cross my fingers, hope everything has worked out. So as you can see in mine, let's start with the type itself, because that's the toughest part, to get that to work the way the book wants you to do it. So let me try to break it down in its simplest terms. There's two steps that you have to take. First is that you start with the type tool and you highlight the type. And then with the appearance panel, since this is about the appearance panel, that's where you get started, make sure that you have the appropriate fill and a 1-point stroke. That's all you need, okay? Now, to add the other appearances, because I can't do that from here, notice that if I wanted to add anything but an effect, if I wanted to see any other appearances to this or add on to have a double stroke or a double fill or anything, I can't do that from here. What I have to do is I have to select the selection tool, and then you start by adding down here either a fill or a stroke, okay? And then that will allow us to add additional elements. Now, what they have done at the very top here, so now that we have the selection tool selected and we have the type selected, you don't want to highlight it or all of this will go away. So this is where it gets a little bit complicated, but it does look good when it's done. So let's go ahead and turn off the warp for the time being and then analyze what we have going on here. So what you want to do is you can either start with a stroke or the fill, it doesn't really matter. But the stroke we have here is 5-point and it is white. Then what we have for a fill, which turns out to be the drop shadow, is going to be the gray. So I'll select that and let's look at that. And it is this gray. I believe it's the no, it's not. Let's go ahead and it should be, maybe it is. Oh no, it is. It's the gravel beach. So that's the fill. That fill is what is layered then on top of the yellow ochre that we had before. So if I turn that off, notice that that gravel look goes away. So to be able to add another layer on top of the yellow ochre, it has to be done here. And it looks like it's the top layer, but it's not. Now, so that this doesn't overpower, the gravel fill doesn't overpower it, in the opacity setting directly beneath it, we can drop it down to 50%. Okay, so that's the next step. So we've got the fill taken care of, and now it's in the initial stroke, which really overshadows or overpowers the 1-point stroke of that light blue or kind of stroke that we started with. So now what we have to do, and this is where it gets a little bit confusing, that if I were to move this stroke up above the fill and below the other stroke, look at, and I'm offside of it, look at how offset it looks and how strange. Parts of the yellow ochre and gravel are showing through, and parts of the light blue are showing through. So it's important that this stroke, this light blue stroke, get put down here below the characters. Now it reads correctly. And the next thing that we need to do is you need to make sure that under, let's go ahead and close that back up. Let's go ahead and down here under the stroke, okay, that we put below the characters, we're going to add an effects. And that's done down here under transform. Okay, so it is distort and transform. You want transform. That's the one that I added. Now, if I click on it, it brings up the settings. So the scale we want to remain the same. We want to be 100%. We want it to move 0.013 inches. That's not very much. That's a little over 1/100th of an inch. And then where it changes, where we get that thickness that drops down to the side, we want to make sure that we have 10 copies of it. So if I turn this off, okay, let's turn off the preview for that. Let's go back again. See, now it's not working. Well, I'm going to leave it on and click OK. And that's what gave us that. The blue dropped to the lower right. And then on everything, at the very bottom, we added an effects for the drop shadow. So the drop shadow, if I click on that, it brings it up, and it's going to be opacity 10%. We want the offset to be 0.14, and the blur to be 0.03. It's these things, sometimes these details that are in the book that I can't often remember from beginning to end, and that's where I get lost in some of these. And that looks nice. And then over the whole thing, we added the warp feature. And at any time you want to change any of these settings, you can do that. They are not permanent. Okay. Now, the warp feature, if I double click on, or just click on that, notice that we have right now the rise. That's the one that we wanted. If you wanted bulge or you wanted an arc or something, okay, and we turned that off. And that back on. Let's go ahead and bend it, see what we get. Lots of different effects, and all of the text is editable, and that's one of the things that they have us change in here. So I'll go ahead and cancel that. So it goes back to the rise feature. Okay, so that is how this was created. Now, if you'll notice, over to the right, and hopefully my computer does not crash because it has been this morning, I achieved a similar effect, but I did not go through all of this to do that. So this is something to explore, that they do have 3D effects that you can work with. So let's do that. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select, again, some type, and I'm going to go ahead and let's make it, we'll just leave it black fill, no stroke, and I'm going to boost this all the way up to maybe 72, even more. Let's go ahead and change this from 72 point to maybe 144. I want to make sure that you can see it. And I'm going to, regular or Myriad Pro is fine, but I want to make sure that we get something kind of heavy. So I'm going to select bold or bold italic. And I'm going to move it over a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. And using the type tool, again, I'm going to highlight, and I'll do the same thing. I'll write ArtFest. Okay, now, how did I achieve that result? What I did is I added under effects, make sure that this is selected with the selection tool. And then under effects, we have the 3D and materials. So what I want to do first, though, to get me in the ballpark, is that they have some really nice graphic styles that have been saved for us. So to find those, you look under the library here, and you look at 3D effects. Now here's a combination of them. And you can see that that's what I did here, and I applied some. But let's start with the one that I'm going to use here. Let's go ahead and start with, let's start with this one. Okay, so there is the effect that's been applied, but we can always go back in and we can change that. And that's what we've done to make, that's what I did here to make this one look similar to that one. Now, I'm not set, it doesn't have to be at this angle. It can be at any angle we want, because if we go back over here and we look at the appearance that's been applied, and we look at the very top, it says type 3D effects. If I double click on that, it should bring up the, let's go back up here. Okay, we have it here under the fill and bevel. So let's go ahead and look under each of these. I'm going to go ahead and look at extrude and bevel. Okay, and let's go ahead and it brings it up. So now what I can do with each of these is I can determine if I want to rotate the whole thing. So let me go back here and let's select the 3D feature, because they can each be separate from one another. That's the whole effect. Let me go back. Okay, let me go ahead and just do this one. And I'm going to clear all the effects just for the heck of it, just so you can see the 3D that's been added. So I'm going to come back over here to Effect, 3D, and Materials, and I want to use the Extrude and Bevel. There's also a Revolve, an Inflate, a Rotate, and various materials, and 3D Classic, which is what we have here, basically the same. Extrude and Bevel, Revolve, Rotate. Let's start with the Extrude and Bevel. It'll bring up a window here that gives us a number of of ways of adjusting our object here and adding the depth to it, rotating it in a number of ways, and doing a number of things. So here's the extrude. Okay, so that's the material. Here's the 3D type, which is a planar. If you want to, right now it was set to extrude. If you want it to revolve, you can do that, and it will spin it around. But it's giving us the 3D properties of this. Okay, that's what it looks like if you're to take that type and spin it around 360 degrees. Kind of weird, huh? Anyway, let's go ahead and close that, and let's undo. And let's go ahead and bring the type back, and let's analyze what I had done here. I had started with, let me just delete it. There we go. So let's take this type. Let's look at the appearance panel and see what I've done here. I continue to, I turned off the warp rise. I can turn that on, and you can see what effect it has. It may not be the desired one. That's probably why I turned it off. So I'll leave it off for each one, and each one of these is separate. So notice what I did. Let's change the fill, for example. So in this particular instance, it's pretty straightforward. We have, for the type that's selected, before I even did anything, I used one of these guys up here. Okay. The one that I used was, I can't remember which one. I think it was this graphic style. Or maybe that's the one that I just created. Let's try this one. We can always go back. There we go. I started with this one because it was very similar to what we have down here. So if looking at that, I decided, okay, I want in the fill here, I don't want the blue, I want this yellow ochre color. So I just simply clicked here. Okay. And I used the yellow ochre. So that changes that. Now we drop down and look at the stroke, and I'm going to leave that a 10-point stroke. But then after that, we have two more strokes. So let's turn this one off and see what this one looks like. So that's not changing things all that much on that one. Let's turn off the next one. And this one should give us the 3D effect. So that's turned off, that stroke, but let's go ahead and change the color of it. And also, instead of 27 points, I'm going to make it 11 points. almost the same as this down here, the outline here. So let's make each of these strokes, instead of 27 point, I'm going to make them, I'll make them 12 point. What the heck? And then we'll change it to, okay, let's change this one again now to 12. I'm going to make it 11. And I want to make this one up here 11. Notice that it takes quite a bit of computer processing power away from your computer here. So let's make this one 11 too. Okay. And now to add the color of this, let's go ahead and change the color of this one and make it the blue. And then to the whole thing, we can, oh, there we go. It crashed. Let me open it back up and I'll just talk about it rather than do it again. That was what my concern was, that while I'm broadcasting to you, things get discombobulated. As I said, it's very taxing on the computer anyway. So hopefully this will come back up. Let me see. I got a force quit. Yeah, force quit Illustrator. It says it's not working, and open it back up. So I'm going to let this run, this video run, and because this is the sort of thing that happens from time to time. I was hoping this wouldn't happen, but that's the way it goes. I want to launch Illustrator. See, even right now, it's taking a while for it to launch. Hopefully I can open it back up to the last file that I had open. If not, then I'll just open it again, the one that was last saved. So save frequently, because if you're not careful, this is what will happen to you. And that's the downside to using 3D. But while I have it selected, let me show you what you can do. I will try one more thing. Okay, so I have the type selected, and you can see that we have right here, if I turn off the 3D effect, this is what it looks like. If I turn it back on, this is the 3D effect. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on 3D Extrude and Bevel Classic. And it should bring up a little dialog box. And I want to show you how you can change the lighting and how you can change the position of your object. The little blue, light blue side of the cube indicates the front. So let's say I want it to turn to the other way. And again, this really slows the computer down. I can click and drag on it. And maybe that's as far as I should go. And just click OK so you can see that it can be moved. But right now, because I'm broadcasting to all of you, live, it is taking a ton of time of processing power. So that's the wireframe, and then it will apply the surfaces to them afterwards. So you can see that I am moving it about, and I can move it in any direction I want. But then what you'll need to do is you'll need to look at more options down here, and what it will do is it will enable you to change the lighting of it and make sure that it works properly, because it is lit. Oh, let's just leave it like that and see what happens to it. You can determine the amount that it's extruded. Right now is 30 point. And again, you're going to have to go over it yourself, see exactly how much. And again, I hope it doesn't crash, but you'll see what it looks like in a minute. It's upside down and around and whatever. Well, how about that? That's not good. Let me go ahead and undo the whole thing. And hopefully it will bring it back. And it did. So again, very taxing on the computer. So what I encourage you to do is an alternative to using this complicated and convoluted approach to creating a 3D effect is on your computer, try the 3D approach under the effect tool. And start by bringing up one of these graphic styles from the 3D effects, and then working with those and manipulating them to work, however you want, do it. Make them look however you want. You don't have to use the ones that they have supplied. The next one that I was having trouble with, and if we look here at the banners, I wanted to have a stroke that was inset. And I think I was using the wrong dimensions or the wrong offset. So let me go ahead and apply it to this one. And then I'm going to show you a way. Let me start by doing it this way. I'm going to bring this up here. And let's say I want to apply the same appearance to this one down here. All I have to do is bring up layers. And you can see that where the text banner is located, we twirl down, we can see that we have two paths, and we can see that the appearance little donut thing here is filled. If I simply hold down the Option key and I click and I drag it and bring it over the lower path, notice how it's applied to the same one. Okay, so that's if you want to duplicate appearances, that's a quick way of doing that. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that again. I'll undo it, and so to do it again, and I think this is where I got goofed up last time. We have a white fill, we have no stroke. So let me go ahead and apply a stroke, and I'm going to make it a big fat one. 10-point stroke. Oh, no. Okay, I got to close it and open it again. I think we're done with appearances for today. It's crashing too much. So I'm going to have to quit Illustrator and open it up again. The next lesson, which is our last lesson, lesson 14, is to apply not graphic styles, but we have a feature that allows us to bring little snippets or they're called symbols. They're little illustrations that we can add. So let me go back here and open up Illustrator again. And let's start talking about those instead. But anyway, I hope you guys don't have, and you shouldn't have the same issues I'm having right now, because you won't be broadcasting live. You won't be live streaming the video. And I have 64 gigabytes of RAM. I have 2 terabytes hard drive. I have fast processor, everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start by moving on to symbols. So I'm going to go ahead and create. And we'll probably finish this on Thursday. I'm just going to start with a simple letter size piece and show you where symbols are. So let me go ahead and close graphic styles. Actually, what I can do here is I can bring up, I don't want to arrange, I don't want to align, come on. I want to bring up, no, I want, here we go. I want to arrange, no, it's here, there we go. I want to reset Essentials Classic. So we just go back to our original setting. So if you're wondering what this little club symbol means, it stands for symbols or little illustrations is what they are. They can be quite complex. Again, they will be tax processor on your computer if you're not careful. And the tool that you use over here to use them, you can either drag them out one by one, like so, and I can bring out a flower. These are the ones that come with the, every file that you open. Again, there are libraries of symbols here. You can open up flowers, you can open up hair and fur, heirloom, all kinds of stuff. Sushi is a good one. Okay. And that window will pop up, and they're beautiful little illustrations. And I'll show you, click and drag. So for those of you who are designers or want to be designers, and you're using elements frequently, they could be logos, they could be, for example, with the sushi, let's say you're designing menus and there's illustrations that you use frequently. These can be turned into symbols quite easily. By what we've done in the past, you create your little symbol and then you drag it into the symbol library and it will add it. Then if you want to edit it, then you double click on the one here and then you can edit it at your will. But now to use it, we're going to bring it over here, and I'm going to bring up, it is the little spray can right here. So I'm going to pull this off so I can show you what each of these does. So as I said, you can bring this over by hand, or you can use the little symbol sprayer here. So let's say I wanted to create a field of flowers. Well, I can control, you can see the outer ring outside of the spray can. That determines how wide and how large the spray will be. So I'll leave it at the default size. And I'm going to go ahead and with that symbol selected, I'm going to click and drag. And I'm holding down the mouse as I do this. And you can get a whole field of flowers. Now, what each of these do give you different options. This is the symbol shifter. This allows you to take, and I can move these around just a little bit because you can see it'll be really difficult to have absolute control over where these things are sprayed. And this allows you to shift them around and massage it just a little bit. That's what that one does. The next one is the scruncher. So what that does is it will, wherever you click, it will bring them closer together. Now, if you want them farther apart, again, hold down the Option key and it will do just the opposite. See how from that point, it's pushing them all farther apart? Then the one after that here is the symbol resize. So if I want some larger than others, I move over, and again, you can change the brush size because the brush size will determine how many or whichever flowers, whatever symbols are located within that area are enlarged. See, it's only those that are within the brush. I click and I drag and they get enlarged. If you want to reduce the size of them, you hold down the Option key and you click and they get smaller again. The next one after that is rotate. Now, because this is circular by nature, you're really not going to see much of a rotation. However, if I were to use, let's go ahead and click and let's select our sushi. And if I wanted to rotate this, again, I can come over here, select the rotate tool, and I can rotate it. Okay. And again, with the sushi selected, if I come back in here and I continue to spray with these, I can have a whole bunch of them. Okay. So let me get rid of some of these and let's show you some others. Let's come back to this group here of flowers. The next one is the stainer color. So whatever color we have in the fill. So I'm going to go ahead and select the fill. And let's pick a color for the fill. And I'm going to pick blue. Okay. Now let's go ahead and use the stainer. And what that will do when we click here in the stainer tool, and I start to click, notice how it's staining these with that blue color. It's not, really accurate, but it's, it gives you some variety within this group. The next one here is the screener, which will take it and it will take some. And if I click on it, hold on here. No, I wanted that one. There we go. If I click too much, it goes away. So let's just I'm going to click really quickly. Let me make it larger. Let's go back and increase the size of it again. So the sizer tool. So let's make this one really big. There we go. And then let's go back over to the screener tool. And if I just click on it ever so slightly, see how it makes it lighter and lighter until it will eventually disappear. And again, if you want to bring it back, you go hold down the Alt or the Option key. Okay. And if you want to get rid of it, you can. This is all a big group. And so what we can do is just select the whole thing and they're all gone. I encourage you to look under, again, a bunch of these. As I said, the sushi is one of my favorites. There's other ones that are kind of neat that can be used, for example, under celebration. You're going to see that we have some things that are called like confetti. So we can click in here and let's make a nice big brush here. Oh. There we go. Let's select again. I got to make sure that I use the spray bottle. There we go. Okay. And then we can come back in and I can use the shifter tool to shift some of these around a little bit. Kind of distribute them a little bit better. And then we can use the next one. I don't want to scrunch it. I want to size some of these. Like so. And there you have it. You can, manipulate them as you will. Now you can always come back with the direct selection tool and let's select some of these elements. No, it doesn't allow you to do that. So what I have to do is I have to go into layers and let's see what we have here. So here, let's look at our star symbol up here. Yep, it's a symbol. So because it's contained in a symbol area, I can't select these individually. What I could do, let's give this a whirl. Let's go ahead and select, and I'm going to double click in here. And it takes us inside the symbol set. Now what I can do is I can, with a direct selection tool or group selection tool, I can select each of these. I should be able to select each of these elements, and it's not allowing me to do that. So let's go back again. Let's try group selection. So it's stuck. And that's it. That's as much as you can do with it. But as I said, you can bring out one or a whole group of them. So again, let's go back to the one of the best ones. Let's go ahead and go back to the layer. And let's bring out I got to bring up the brush again. The symbol, I should say. Let's try the stain. You can always, drag them out or just click once. So let's use the symbol. So if you just click once, it's just going to bring it out. So I'm just clicking once. Now, if you want to edit one or all of these, you can do so. If you want to make a copy of them, then just select and go ahead and I want a new symbol, or just, let's go ahead and it has symbol options now. What I can do though is let's go ahead and I'm going to double click on this to edit it. It takes us inside of that. And let's say I want to make this, instead of black, I want to make it red. So I'll go ahead and click the fill. Let's make it red. There we go. And now I can go back outside of it. So let's go back to the vectors and notice that it's changed all of them. But what I can do is I can go ahead and I can go back to these again. I can go ahead and I can make a copy of this like so. So now I have two, and let's go back, and if I want a black one again, now let's go back here and let's select this one. Let's go back and select the fill, and let's make that one black. Okay. Come on, I need to select it. That would be helpful, huh? Let's go ahead and make it black. And let's go back outside. And so now I have two of the same symbol, but just different colors. So now I can go ahead and I can drag one of these out. So you can have as many as you want. Or I could take two of these and I can go ahead and let's say I wanted to take, instead of one flower, let's say I wanted multiple flowers in a single symbol. So what I could do is I could go ahead and I could select it, and then I could go to Object, and I want to expand it so that it's no longer. I just want to expand and make sure that the object and the fill are the same. Click OK. So now it's just a group. Okay. And now I can go ahead and I can hold down the Option or Alt key, make a copy of the group. Let's go ahead and do that again. So now I have three of them. And if you wanted to vary the size, you could. Vary the color, you can. Now I can select all three of these, and I can hit Command G to group them again. Okay. So they're all selected. Now let's go ahead and take that and drag it in our symbol library, and we'll call it flowers. Now let's deselect. Now let's go ahead with our flowers. I'm going to go ahead and use the sprayer again, and let's go ahead and now it's really filling up because I have three of them instead of just the one. Okie doke. There is one more thing that I forgot to mention from the last lesson. I always, forget little things here. But anytime, let me go ahead and open the file. Because it's a quickie and I don't think the computer will crash. So let's go back to our lesson 13 working file. There we go. I'm going to enlarge it. The last thing that they want us to do that we didn't cover in here is if you already have a group of items, you want to enlarge or reduce them, especially reduce them in size. There's certain features that you want to take into consideration. So for example, if I want to reduce it in size, I'm going to use the scale tool here. Should be underneath here. No, that's reflect. Where's scale? Scale, scale, scale. There it is, right there. So I'm going to double click on here. And let's say I want to make it uniformly 50%. That's half of the dimensions or a quarter of the actual size. And I can go ahead and Let's go ahead and make a copy of it. No, I don't want to replace fonts. Just close. So let me do that again. Let me go ahead and select it. Make sure that it's selected. Let's go ahead and double click on it. And I want to copy it. Uniform 50%. And let's go ahead and copy. There we go. Now let's go ahead and move it. Whoops, I don't want to do that. I just want to move it. Okay. Now, it looks okay now because I previously set it up correctly to do so. So what I had done is that if you double click on the scale tool itself, so let's look at the scale tool. I double click on it. I will get not only that, but you'll notice it says scale corners, scale strokes and effects, transform objects and transform patterns. That's something that you want to take into consideration. That when you make things really small, make sure that you scale corners, and if desired, scale strokes and effects, and transform patterns if there are any patterns. So let's change this back to 200%. Okay, and everything is scaled appropriately. So it maintains the same ratio of height to width, same proportions. Okay, so that was something that was covered in the last that we forgot about. And don't forget, it's very easy then to add drop shadows to our objects. It's to add, other effects, and to add patterns, for example, to double the on objects, to double, triple, quadruple fills and strokes. And we have a whole series of gradients that we can apply for the graphic styles. So that was what was done here. That's what I wanted to show you that I forgot. Okay, so that's pretty much it. It's a whole library of them. You can create your own libraries. You can import libraries of symbols. They're pretty nice. They really are. It's easy to overdo it though. So, watch what, when you use them, you use them carefully. Here's a retro one. So here's one for a flower. Here's one. Some of them are neat. Some of them are kind of hokey. Butterfly is kind of nice. There you go. That's kind of nice too. School bus. Kind of a hippie 60s school bus. Very nice. Okay. So that's all I have for today. And we'll try my best to go through the exercise on Thursday. And I'm just going to wing it rather than try to do it by the book, because that's when I get stuck. And that's when the computer crashes. Although it did crash today without any help from the book. So if there aren't any questions, that will be it for today. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording. And then before we leave today, let's see, Jaron, you wanted some help. So I'm going to turn it over to you in just 1 second here. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording. I'm going to say goodbye. So you're welcome to stay or to leave if you want. Bye-bye.